99% of men think manipulation in dating looks like screaming, gaslighting, and the obvious red flags their friends warned them about. They are watching the wrong movie. The real manipulation has no script, no villain, and no warning signs. It is invisible by design, and the men who cannot see it are the men it was built for. This is not about red flags, it is about the architecture that runs underneath them. Machiavelli mapped this 5 centuries ago, and almost no man in your life has read him correctly. He understood that the most dangerous power is the power nobody recognizes as power. By the end of this, you will hold the blueprint to that architecture, but pay close attention to the second lever. It is the one that destroys you slowly, over months, without a single act you can point to as proof. Society tells you manipulation is loud. They tell you a manipulator screams, lies obviously, isolates you on day one, and waves the red flag of cliché above her head. They have been feeding you this since your first heartbreak. It is a lie, not an innocent one, a deliberate piece of theater designed to make you watch the stage while the real performance happens behind you. Welcome to the red flag theater. The script is simple, the villain is obvious, the warning signs are loud enough that any man with a pulse can spot them, and the moment you spot one, you congratulate yourself for being too sharp to be manipulated. That congratulation is the entire purpose of the theater. It produces the most useful state a manipulator can ever ask for, which is a man who believes he cannot be manipulated. Machiavelli understood this in a different language. He saw that the prince who appears cruel is opposed, while the prince who appears merciful while consolidating power is obeyed. The visible operator can be fought. The invisible operator cannot, because nobody recognizes him as an operator at all. The same logic runs through every modern dating dynamic. The woman who is loud about her demands is rejected. The woman who builds compliance one quiet concession at a time is called easy to be with. She is not easy, she is efficient. The red flag list is not your defense, it is your distraction. While you are busy auditing every woman you meet for the warning signs your friend group taught you, you are blind to the 3 invisible levers that actually move you, and by the time you realize you have been moved, you have already signed the contract. They will call this paranoia. Let them. Paranoia is what the architecture calls recognition. The men who can see the theater for what it is are the only men who will ever stand outside it. Everyone else stays in the audience, applauding the wrong performance until the lights come up and the room is empty. 3 psychological mechanisms move men in dating without their recognition. Each one was named by a researcher, validated in controlled study, and weaponized in millions of small interactions every night. The 99% have never heard of any of them by name. The architecture relies on that. Daniel Brehm named the first one psychological reactance. When a woman implies that you cannot have her, your psychology does not register a polite refusal. It registers a threat to your autonomy, and the threat triggers a chase response that has nothing to do with whether you actually want her. You are not pursuing, you are reacting, and reactance is the cheapest manipulation in the human catalog. The woman who masters it does not have to be beautiful, brilliant, or kind. She has to be unavailable in a way that flickers. Flicker the unavailability, and the lever pulls itself. Robert Cialdini named the second one commitment consistency. The smallest yes you give in week 1 becomes the cage of week 10. Once you have publicly agreed she is special, your mind will perform contortions to keep the story consistent, even when the evidence has turned against her. You will defend her behavior to friends whose instincts are correct. You will invent justifications for actions that would horrify you if a stranger described them. This is not weakness of character. It is the operating system. Cialdini documented it in laboratory after laboratory. Once a man has said yes to a small thing in public, he will rearrange his entire identity to keep saying yes. Albert Mehrabian quantified the third one. He found that the weight of human communication is 55% body, 38% tone, and 7% words. That figure has been misapplied for decades, but the underlying signal is stable. The woman who is manipulating you does not need to lie with her mouth. Her mouth is the smallest channel of the transmission. The other 93% is happening on a frequency you were never trained to read. The micro-expression she runs when you mention another woman, the shoulder angle she uses when you announce a plan she dislikes, the breath she holds for half a second when she wants you to feel her approval is conditional. None of it appears in the text message you forward to your friends. None of it survives a screenshot. It is read or it is missed. But pay close attention to the second lever. It is the one that destroys you slowly over months, without a single act you can point to as proof. By the end of this video, you will reread every text message you sent this year and recognize with a cold clarity which of them was actually your own idea and which one was the consistency machine running on your behalf. This is not manipulation in the way the 99% picture it. There is no scream, there is no slammed door, there is a small yes on Tuesday, a smaller yes on Friday, a slightly larger one the week after, until the man who agreed to the first one looks up and realizes he no longer recognizes the life he is now responsible for defending. Each yes is a brick. The architecture builds itself out of his consent. He calls it love because the architecture taught him to call it that. Look at the woman you are currently dating. Find the moment last month you said yes to something you did not actually want. Find the second one. Find the 10th. You will not find a villain. You will find an architecture you signed for, brick by brick, and never once read the contract. The compliance architecture. The reason the 99% cannot see manipulation is that it does not arrive as a single event. It arrives as a slow accumulation of yeses, each one small enough to be invisible. The first compliment you accepted that you did not earn. The first plan you rearranged that you did not want to rearrange. The first time you defended her behavior to a friend whose instincts were correct. Each one was small. Each one was a brick. This is not about a single woman lying to you. It is about you, in 1,000 small moments, ratifying a contract you never read. The contract is the architecture. The manipulation is just the architect. Cesare Borgia understood this in 1502. He needed the Romagna pacified, but he could not afford the political cost of being the visible villain, so he sent his lieutenant Ramiro de Orco to do the cruelty for him. Ramiro pacified the province with terror. The population complied, day by day, with a system they slowly stopped recognizing as imposed. When the work was done, Borgia had Ramiro executed in the public square and claimed the victory. The population thanked him for the order. They had forgotten that they were the ones who built it, one small compliance at a time. Machiavelli, who watched Borgia operate firsthand, recorded the lesson in The Prince. The visible cruelty was disposable. The invisible architecture was permanent. The Romagna remained loyal even after Borgia's own collapse, because the population had already agreed, in 1,000 small acts, that this was simply how things were. This is the exact same mechanism operating in your relationships right now. You did not choose her. You did not even decide that she was special. You agreed day by day in 1,000 small ways until the agreement looked like a choice, and the architecture she built around you is held in place by nothing but your continued consent to it. You must understand something about the architecture. It does not require an evil woman. The mechanism is so efficient that a woman of perfect character will still produce it in a man who does not know it exists. She does not have to intend the manipulation. She has only to ask for small things in the order the mechanism prefers. The cage builds itself from the inside. She does not have to be its jailer. She has only to be the reason it exists. Look at the relationship you are in right now, or the last one. Find the moment you said yes to something you did not actually want. Find the second one. Find the 10th. You will not find a villain. You will find an architecture you signed for, brick by brick. You will find the joint smile of the friend group you defended her in front of. You will find the recurring schedule, the household reorganized around her preferences. You will find the half-articulated complaints you swallowed because raising them seemed disproportionate to the moment. Is this manipulation? Yes. But ask yourself the harder question. Who in your past was already running this on you before any woman ever did? Your mother in the first decade, calibrating your sense of which yeses were safe. Your first coach in the second. The first friend group that decided who you would be allowed to be in their presence. The architecture was installed long before she walked into the room. She did not build the cage. She inherited the keys and noticed that you had not changed the lock. This is what Machiavelli meant when he wrote that the prince who learns nothing is the prince who is governed by accidents. The man who does not understand the compliance architecture is the man whose life is governed by accidents he calls relationships. He marries the architecture. He raises children inside it. He defends it to therapists who can name pieces of it, but who cannot bring themselves to tell him the structural truth, which is that he is the load-bearing wall. You must stop pretending you are the victim of an event. The event was the consequence. You were the architecture's volunteer. The first task of defense is to see that plainly, with no story attached. Until you see it, you cannot leave it. The cage is not a metaphor. The cage is a contract you keep re-signing every morning because the alternative is to stand alone in a room with the bricks you carried in yourself. The hidden treaty. There is a clause in the contract you signed that nobody warns you about. The moment you see the architecture, you cannot unsee it. You will lose women, not enemies. You will lose women who were exploiting you, and you will lose women who genuinely loved you but built the relationship on the architecture, not on you. Both groups go. The first group leaves because their leverage has evaporated. The second group leaves because the man they were attached to was the version that agreed to everything, and that man is now extinct. And here is the part that will hurt. You are not just a victim, you are a co-author. You preferred being chosen over being selective. You wanted the variable ratio reinforcement that B.F. Skinner identified in pigeons 60 years ago, the unpredictable reward that makes the pull on the lever more addictive than a guaranteed prize. You did not want a partner, you wanted the slot machine. The architecture only worked on you because you bought a ticket. Every man who is reading this and feeling a hot wave of recognition has been pulling that lever for years. The reward was randomized, the cost compounded. Abraham Maslow called it the Jonah complex, the fear of your own greatness. You did not avoid being selective because you could not be selective. You avoided it because being selective means standing alone in a room while every easy yes walks past. It means watching women you find attractive choose other men because you refuse to perform the small concessions that would have purchased the appearance of compatibility. It means tolerating the loneliness of a Tuesday night when the architecture would have generated a phone call within an hour if you had been willing to send the right message. Talleyrand stood in that room. Charles Maurice de Talleyrand-Périgord served as foreign minister through the French Revolution, the Napoleonic Empire, and the Bourbon Restoration. Every regime around him demanded fealty in exchange for protection. He refused to be fully chosen by any of them. He accepted the loneliness of being permanently distrusted by every side. He outlasted 3 regimes that had demanded he choose one of them. He died as the only sovereign in his century who had never belonged to anyone. He paid the tax of never being fully chosen. The tax purchased the only freedom available in his world. The dark side is this: the architecture is half you. The woman who exploited it was a finishing carpenter, not the original builder. You laid the foundation in childhood, framed the walls in adolescence, and signed her on as the interior designer in your 20s. The cost of demolishing it includes the relationships you currently call good. They are not bad relationships. They are architecture, and you mistook the architecture for love because you had never met love standing outside of it. You must accept this before the next section will mean anything to you. You must accept that the architecture is half you. You must accept that the next door you walk through, you cannot walk back. The sovereign frame. It is not a tactic, it is a state. And a state cannot be manipulated because it has no door for the architecture to enter through. You stop scanning the world for red flags. You start scanning yourself for compliance pressure. The signal moves from outside the body to inside it, and the manipulation that was invisible for 30 years becomes audible the moment the receiver is pointed in the correct direction. Layer 1. Recognition. You must be able to feel the consistency machine running before it produces a yes. The signal is somatic, a tightness in your chest, a brief hesitation before you nod, a half second where the body knows the answer should be no, and the mouth opens to deliver a yes anyway. Most men ignore this signal because they were taught it was rudeness. It is not rudeness. It is the only honest data your body produces about the architecture you are standing inside. Layer 2. Refusal. You must stop explaining. Explanation is the architecture's nutrition. The moment you explain why you are not doing the small thing, you have ratified that the request was reasonable, and you owe a counter-argument. You do not. The sovereign answer is the one without a justification attached to it. No is a complete sentence. Not tonight is a complete sentence. That is not happening is a complete sentence. Add a reason, and the architecture has a foothold to negotiate. Withhold the reason, and the architecture starves. Layer 3. Replacement. You must install your own architecture before hers can occupy the vacancy. Nature abhors a missing structure. The moment you tear down the consent that was holding her version in place, she will rebuild, or another woman will arrive who specializes in the same construction. You will not stop the architecture, you will displace it with yours. Have a fixed schedule the relationship adjusts around, not the reverse. Have a fixed list of behaviors that end the relationship without discussion. Have a fixed identity the relationship cannot rearrange. Sun Tzu wrote that the supreme art is to subdue the enemy without battle. You do not out-argue the architecture, you starve it of terrain. You change the ground until her strategy has no purchase. When you operate from the sovereign frame, the manipulation will still arrive. Women will still test the reactance lever, the consistency lever, the non-verbal pressure. The difference is that the levers will arrive at a door they cannot open. The women who were exploiting you will leave first. The ones who genuinely respected you will recognize the change and adjust toward it. You will not lose what you needed. You will lose what you were paying for. This is not a list of tricks, it is an identity. The 99% of men spend their lives scanning the outside world for the warning signs of manipulation. The sovereign 1% scan themselves for the small yeses. The difference between those two states is not intelligence. It is whether you have agreed to stop being chosen and start being selective. And the moment you make that choice, the architecture you have lived inside for 30 years has lost its load-bearing wall. The structure that took a lifetime to build collapses in a week. The room is finally yours. You walked into this video as one of the 99%, not because you were stupid, because the system was designed to keep you scanning the wrong horizon. You now see the architecture. You now see the 3 levers. You now see the treaty. You now see the frame. You walked in believing manipulation was a sound. You leave knowing it is a building. The question is not whether you understand it, the question is whether you will install the sovereign frame. Most men who watch this will close the tab, return to the women in their lives, and rebuild the architecture brick by brick within 48 hours. They will tell themselves they were too tired to start tonight. They will tell themselves she is different. They will tell themselves the theory does not apply to their situation. They will produce a beautiful catalogue of reasons why the door they just saw is one they do not need to walk through. They are the 99%. They will stay the 99%. They prefer the architecture they know to the loneliness of standing without one. They will keep paying the compliance tax in increments small enough to ignore until they are old men who cannot remember when the building stopped feeling like their own. The frame is yours. The walls are yours to tear down, but you can never again claim you did not know which were the load-bearing ones. The only question remaining is what you do the next time she asks for a small concession that contradicts your judgment, and she will ask, "Tomorrow." The architecture is patient. You no longer have to be. Most men will scroll to the next video. They will absorb the theory and return to the noise. They will keep paying the compliance tax in increments too small to ratify, keep absorbing the architecture they did not read, keep hoping for a woman who will see through their consent and refuse to use it against them. She will not arrive. The architecture was efficient long before she did. But somewhere in your life is another mind that should see this, the one who has been carrying a relationship that no longer recognizes him, the one who has been paying the small yeses for years and calling the exhaustion something else, the one who keeps defending a woman to a friend whose instincts are correct. Send this to him. Some debts are owed to minds like yours. The frequency has been sent from MindCrypt. Those who can receive it will find the next transmission. Those who cannot will return to the architecture they call home. The question is simply which one you are.